I remember it like it was yesterday. The sun was high, the birds were chirping outside my window, and Sentient Surge was still valued at 280 platinum. Life was good, but then it all changed. I fell into a deep depression, I started drinking again, I lost the kids. Okay, maybe it wasn't that bad. Anyways, hello everyone, it's Flashes. In this video, I'm going to do a deep dive on one of the biggest, if not the biggest scam in all of Warframe history. Yes, I'm talking about the Sentient Surge, the augment mod that was ridiculously valued at 200 plus platinum. By the way, you guys loved my last video and I'll be talking about it at the end of this one, so stay tuned for that. Also guys, we hit 500 subscribers, which is crazy, and thanks so much for that. Now without further ado, let us begin. Sentient Surge is an augment mod for the Okukur, which many of you may know as one of the most powerful secondary weapons in the entire game. The mod itself was extremely useful for Okukur builds, with many living by the idea that any Okukur build was not complete without Sentient Surge, so clearly it's a very strong mod and highly sought after. But is that enough for an augment mod to reach the levels of being worth more than 200 platinum? If we look at a couple of other powerful weapon augment mods to compare, the truth becomes blindingly obvious. This is a website called Warframe.market. It's an online marketplace for Warframe players to put up listings of items that they are willing to trade for in-game. It's a great place for finding items that you need quickly, but more so than that, it is the one and only place where players can see the true value of an item. Let's use the mod Acid Shells, which is a powerful augment mod for the Sobek, as an example. Here we can see a list of players that are willing to sell their copy of Acid Shells for a range of prices. We can see that the first person here is willing to sell for 24 platinum, the next person after is willing to sell for 30 plat, and so on. These are called the asking price for an item, and just by looking at maybe the first 5 or so results here, we can get an idea of how much Acid Shells is actually worth. About 25 to 30 plat clearly. So with this information, if we see someone on trade chat asking for 200 platinum, we'll know not to go for that trade, as we would be overpaying by almost 10 times, when we could just as easily trade with the person on Warframe Market. So that was Acid Shells, which is a super good mod for the Sobek, especially on the recently introduced frame Oraxia, and it's only around 30 plat. So how on earth was Sentient Surge able to reach over 200 plat? Well, first of all, let me make something clear. The time when Sentient Surge was valued so high was actually a few years ago. Unfortunately, Warframe Market's stat charts only go back as far as 90 days, meaning we aren't able to see what the prices really were back then. However, what we can do is use a piece of internet history to magically go back to those days. I'm talking about the good old Wayback Machine. This website allows us to view snapshots of web pages as they were back in time. So we'll go to Sentient Surge on Warframe Market and we'll copy the URL. Now we'll go back to Wayback Machine and paste it in. Hit enter, and it seems there isn't a snapshot from back then. We only have these two new ones, which are far too late for what we're looking for. But maybe hope isn't lost. How about we try a different part of the Sentient Surge webpage? Instead of taking the URL of the main listings, let's go over to statistics and see if there happen to be any snapshots taken of this exact page. Come on, surely it exists? Yes, that's it! There's a snapshot for this page dating to the 17th of December 2024. This is exactly what we're looking for. Let's switch from the 48-hour view to the 90-day view, and behold, there it is. One of the biggest crashes for an individual item in Warframe ever. Sentient Surge went from a stable 270 to 280 plat and suddenly crashed all the way down to around 5 to 10 plat in a matter of days. What on earth could have happened on October 2nd to have caused this? To figure out what happened, we gotta understand that Sentient Surge being stable at around 280 plat went on for ages. There would be occasional dips down to 200, but it was extremely stable at that absurdly 200 plus plat high price. Sentient Surge was first introduced on the 24th of May 2023, and from then onto the 2nd of October 2024, when it crashed, it was easily one of the highest value niche items in the entire game. So why was it valued so highly, and why was it so stable? Well, there's actually a pretty interesting answer to that. Basically, Sentient Surge, when it was introduced, was an item that you could only get during the Nightwave at the time. I can't recall if it was a reward or an item that you could buy with Nightwave credits, but the point is that after that Nightwave, players simply could not grind for it anymore, like at all. The only way for a player who didn't play that season's Nightwave to get it was to trade for it with other players. You can probably guess how this went. Since Sentient Surge was acquired from a limited time event, after that said event, there was a static number of copies of the mod in circulation amongst the community. This closed system is what allowed the mod to be artificially boosted in value. See, there is a thing called supply and demand. When some good or service is abundant, we say there is a high supply for it. And when people really want to buy some good or service, we say that there is a high demand for that said thing. If there is a high demand for an item that has a low supply, it means that that item is rare and thus usually it becomes expensive. On the other hand, if there is low demand for an item that is in surplus, then it's super common and is cheap, often being sold in bulk. Okay, so back to Sentient Surge. We already know that there was high demand for this mod as it was instrumental for Okuka builds, but what about the supply? Since there was only so many Sentient Surges in circulation after the Nightwave season ended, Sentient Surge traders were able to hoard many copies of the mod to simulate lower supply, whilst keeping demand ever high. What I mean is that at some point, the mod's value wasn't super crazy high, but what the traders would do is continue buying more and more of the mod from other players without ever intending to sell them. This is called artificial scarcity. It's what we do with things like diamonds in the real world. We make it seem rarer than it actually is, resulting in it being more expensive. This is exactly what happened with Sentient Surge, with its value ultimately reaching unheard of levels for an augment mod at 200 plus plat. Now, there is no way for us to know whether this phenomenon occurred naturally with several unconnected people cluing onto this economic exploit and individually hoarding the mod, because the other option is that this was an organized effort. It doesn't take a genius to notice the pattern and exploit it. What it takes is someone who has access to many people. It could be as simple as a group of 20 or so people collectively hoarding the mod to boost its scarcity and value. Then they could sell their inflated copies of the mod at a higher price whenever they wanted to or needed to. Who knows, we will probably never really know the truth of how it actually started. So that explains it, right? Well, there's a little bit more to this story to cover. See, while the beginning of Sentient Surge's insane run is credited to the way it was introduced as a limited time item, or my speculation towards some entity of people artificially creating scarcity for the mod, that doesn't explain why this mod would be a scam, which is what I said in the title of this video. See, a little while later, during the year and a half while Sentient Surge was stable at this high value, some players noticed something interesting. The average player was happy to sell their copy of Sentient Surge for only around 50 plat. What? But how does that make any sense? We just went over how and why Sentient Surge was valued at over 200 plat. Why would most players be more than happy to sell their copies for less than half of that for only around 50? Well, it's because of a neat little thing called ignorance. Players were rewarded with Sentient Surge from a Nightwave, and thus many players actually got it as a bonus item that they were never seeking in the first place. They just played the game and happened to acquire it while being completely unaware of its rising value. And so, their copies just sat in their inventories, collecting dust. Perhaps one day these players would happen to see a message like the following on trade chat: WTB, Sentient Surge, 50p, check inventory, you might have it. Now for non-traders, this message might look a little cryptic, so let me break it down. WTB just stands for willing to buy. It indicates that this person wants to buy the item which they link afterwards, which in our case is Sentient Surge. After that, they say the price. 50 plat is actually quite high for any mod, so this is super eye-catching for the average player browsing trade chat. And then the hook, line, and sinker is the next sentence. Check inventory, you might have it. It's a call to action. It's basically saying, hey you want to make 50 plat real quick? All you gotta do is check your inventory. You might actually have this mod that you aren't using anyways. An unsuspecting player would go to their inventory and see an untouched Sentient Surge sitting there and be more than happy to give it away for 50 plat without even thinking about it. 50 plat is a lot for a mod, so they would think they're getting a steal, but the reality isn't so sweet. The truth is, if they sold their copy on Warframe market, they would get 4 times the amount of platinum. So this created a bizarre situation. We had a very large difference between what people would buy the mod for on trade chat compared to Warframe market. Let's look a bit deeper into this. What Sentient Surge traders would do is they would go to the in-game trade chat and try to buy the mod for 50 plat or less, using the strategy I just mentioned. They preyed on the players who had no idea about the mod and quite frankly didn't care about it. These traders would then take that mod and make a listing on Warframe market for over 200 plat and make 150 plus plat in profit. Then they would repeat this over and over and over and over, meaning that people that actually wanted to use this mod and buy it would have to pay ridiculous prices on Warframe market, and the people that were taking advantage of the current market would be able to buy it for cheap from unknowing people. Now you might be wondering as to why I personally know so much about this. I haven't exactly provided evidence for these claims, so why should you believe me? Well, the truth is, I've been keeping something hidden from you this whole video. I was a Sentient Surge trader myself. Yes, that's right, me. I was. I have personally used the strategy and made thousands of plat in this way. At certain points in time, I've had over 20 copies of Sentient Surge in my inventory. I've scammed hundreds of players who didn't know about the mod's value, and I've made the equivalent of hundreds of real-world dollars in this game. At first, we all think it's just a video game, so our actions in them don't matter. But then you kind of think about it and you realize that even though you're trading in-game currency, that currency came into existence from the conversion of real-world money. For example, 1 plat is roughly equivalent to 5 cents AUD. So let's just say I traded 10,000 plat worth of Sentient Surge. That's still equivalent to 500 AUD, and in reality, it was far more than just 10k plat. So basically what I'm trying to say is I kind of feel bad about my days as a Sentient Surge trader. But oh well, what can I do now, right? Well, there is one silver lining to the story. See, as we discovered, Sentient Surge was a closed system, meaning there were only so many copies of the mod in circulation. This was because DE introduced the mod as a nightwave reward, so after that season finished, players could no longer acquire it other than by trading. This system was taken advantage of by many players, which is what caused the price to skyrocket to more than 200 plat, and it was extremely stable. This system allowed for mass Sentient Surge traders like myself to arise and also take advantage of it. But the issue with this system is that it is deceptively stable. See, everything about Sentient Surge is built off of the fundamental fact that the supply is fixed and does not change, meaning that all it takes for the entire system to collapse is if that fundamental fact becomes false. On October 2nd, DE dropped their Knights of Nabarus event. This is their yearly Halloween event which features its own currency and rewards players can acquire. It just so happened to be the case that one of the items offered in the Knights of Nabarus 2024 shop was no other than Sentient Surge. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. You guys loved my last one and we suddenly reached over 500 subscribers. I can't even begin to explain how sick that is, so thanks guys. I also read a lot of your comments and many of you brought up some good points on things I could have mentioned or stuff I got wrong, and I appreciate that a lot. I'm hoping if you guys enjoyed the last video, then this one will be even better, and if you're not subscribed yet, come on, just subscribe so you won't lose me forever. But then, it all changed. I fell into a deep depression, I started drinking again, I lost the kids. Okay, maybe it wasn't that bad,